Constructing track is one of the most essential and interesting parts of the West LRT project. Tracks link our new West stations and communities to the rest of the city's LRT network. How do we build 8 kilometers of West LRT track? Let's take a look.
The track work process begins here, near the Sinalta station, with crews lifting all the 24-meter pieces of rail onto the elevated guideway. Each rail is then lifted with another crane onto a roller system that forms the first step in the assembly line. First, the rail ends are prepped and checked to make sure they are ready for welding. Second, the individual pieces are welded together, forming 400-meter long continuous strings of rail. The weld is then ground down smooth, and the welds are checked to make sure the rail is smooth and strong. The newly welded strings sit in a stockpile on the guideway and wait until they are needed. This rail welding process also took place near Sirocco Station for the rail used on the west half of the project. All of the rail will eventually form the entire 8-kilometer West LRT line from 11th Street Southwest all the way to the 69th Street station. While welding takes place, crews are excavating and preparing the space for the future LRT route. During excavation, underground utilities may be relocated and below-ground facilities are installed to support the LRT track, such as drainage and electrical equipment. If the tracks are lower than the roadway, retaining walls are put in place to create a safe area for the LRT. Once excavation is completed and the ground is compacted, a gravel-type rock called ballast is dumped onto the excavated area. This ballast is spread to form a thick layer that acts as a solid foundation for the tracks. After the ballast is in place and graded, the concrete ties can be laid. The rail being stored on the elevated guideway will be fastened directly to the ties, while the ballast supports and holds the ties firmly in place. The rail is now ready to be moved into place. Each of the 400-meter rail strings are now moved down the line from the elevated guideway to where it is meant to be installed. Crews push and pull the rail day and night from Crowchild Trail West up the future LRT route. Once the rails are in at their final locations, workers use clips to secure the rail into place on the ties. After the clipping is completed, flooding the track is next. Flooding track is a process where more ballast is poured from trucks onto the track bed. This step helps secure the track into place. After flooding comes surfacing, a process that precisely aligns and secures the track in place. First, a machine called a tamper moves along the flooded part of the track and lifts, shakes, and aligns the track to its exact alignment position. It brings the track to the surface on top of the ballast and aligns it with millimeter precision to the exact position calculated during the planning of the West LRT. It then compacts the ballast under the ties. After the tamper's work is complete, a machine called a regulator moves along the track performing a process called brooming. This process essentially cleans up and shapes the ballast around the ties and rail. A technique called thermite welding is then used to weld together the various strings of rail. This process is essential and ensures the lengths of rail are continuous and securely fastened together for when trains begin running on the West LRT line.
Track work is a complicated and sometimes dangerous process that involves skilled professionals and millimeter precision. To find out more about the West LRT construction process, visit our website at westlrt.ca.